Introduction. As if sensing an unfamiliar presence, deep within Longshan, two resounding dragon roars echoed. Shortly thereafter, two adult dragons, each exceeding 70 meters in length, emerged from the volcano, confronting Sheila. The two sides emitted low growls, seemingly engaged in a form of communication. Of course, it was primarily the docile Silverwings that conversed with Sheila, while Volmasol observed from the sidelines. The wisdom of the Silverwings. Is it truly so profound? It appears that in the original tale, they were hindered by the inept knights, and Volmasol is likely no different. Blood Dragon Frenzy. What a waste. If I were to possess all of this, then I would be destined to reign by divine decree, living in eternal prosperity. Chapter 1. Born of Dust, Heart Towards the Firmament. In the year 87 of the Conquest, the heat of Volantis during the prolonged summer was stifling. The silk curtains of the flower house rustled fiercely in the sea breeze. Princess Sinera, daughter of King Jaehaerys, who fled from Westeros, was curled up on the birthing bed, her sweat soaking the white velvet pillowcase. She gripped tightly onto the burlap, soaked in dreamflower juice, her nails carving deep grooves into the floral patterns of the bedpost. Push harder. The midwife's rough hands pressed against her distended abdomen. If you don't exert yourself, both you and the child will perish here. Agonizing pain surged like a tidal wave, and in a daze, Sinera found herself transported back to the gardens of the Red Keep, her younger self surrounded by siblings and their father. Her brother Aemon and Balon were engaged in a sword duel, while their mother Alysanne cradled the newborn sister, gazing at them tenderly. Suddenly, Aemon's sword inadvertently grazed Balon's hand, crimson droplets staining the stone floor. Wow! The wail of a newborn shattered the oppressive air. The midwife cradled the infant, bringing it to the candlelight, her murky eyes widening in astonishment. By the gods! That hair color! Those eyes! Sinera trembled as she propped herself up. The infant's wrinkled face had yet to be cleaned, but the signs of Valyrian heritage were unmistakable. Damp silver hair clung to its scalp, and a hint of violet gleamed in its partially open eyes. This resemblance to her brother, who fervently believed in himself, yet always compelled her to apologize to their parents, was striking. Sinera had been exiled to Volantis 3 years prior, though in truth she had fled here. Her charges included immoral conduct, rebellion, disobedience, evasion of punishment, and violations of royal law, among others. Frankly, she was unaware of committing so many transgressions. The infant in her arms was the product of her revenge against the Targaryens, and a means to substantiate those accusations. She gazed at the child beside her. Raymon Targaryen, do you not consider yourselves noble? Then I shall bestow upon a bastard born in a flower house the same surname as yours, allowing the world to know that you, who stand so high, are as humble as any illegitimate child. The midwife clicked her tongue. Targaryen, do not forget your current status. This child is a bastard, unworthy of being deemed a noble Targaryen. She deliberately emphasized the word status, seemingly mocking the once noble woman before her. Sinera remained silent, merely gazing at the infant's delicate face. 3 years prior, with the assistance of the Hightower family, she had fled from a church in Westeros to Volantis, eking out a meager existence in this seedy alley of pleasure. The rumors of her debauchery had solidified her reputation, and the title of the Princess of Technicians had since spread among the 9 free city-states. Yet, at this moment, as she regarded the child's petite features, a fleeting thought crossed her mind. Perhaps she ought to abandon such a ludicrous existence. However, such notions were ephemeral after all. The Targaryens were known for their madness, leaving nothing unscathed in their wake. As days turned into weeks, Raymon began to grow. In his infancy, he would often wail throughout the night, and Sinera initially held him close, pacing the room while humming lullabies to soothe him to sleep. Unfortunately, her patience waned within days, and she relinquished the child to the care of a slave. Perhaps she loved him, but her affection was scant, possibly a reflection of her unwillingness to recall the torment inflicted upon her by the church and her parents. Through over a year of strategic maneuvering, Sinera had managed to cultivate connections with several Volantine magistrates, ultimately becoming the clandestine proprietor of this brothel. One afternoon, recalling her son, Sinera decided to visit Raymon. This child is destined to be a beauty, her companion, Kiri, remarked, swaying into the room, her golden earrings jingling. With her crimson-painted fingers, she pinched Raymon's cherubic cheek. By the time he turns 12, the noblemen will be tripping over themselves for his attention. Sinera regarded her coolly. It matters not. Whether he becomes a commodity depends on his own choices. If he wishes to squander his potential, then let him sell his body to sustain himself. Kiri scoffed. In Volantis, the illegitimate and the commodity are scarcely distinguishable. Weren't you once in that very position? She surveyed Senela's opulent silk robe. Were it not for your Targaryen lineage, you would have been sold to Lys long ago. How could you possibly enjoy your current standing? With a sharp slap, Senela raised her hand and struck Kiri. Have I been too lenient with you? Do not mistake my gratitude for your assistance as a license to act with impunity. Remember, I am no slave, and Yumi, dear friend, are in my service. Now call me mistress. Mistress. The atmosphere shifted uneasily. At that moment, had a teenage boy witnessed the exchange, he might have been overwhelmed by the intensity of the situation. Truly, the Targaryens were a testament to madness, a reflection of the chaos that defined the world of power struggles. Fortunately, our protagonist at this juncture was an infant, blissfully unaware and enveloped in slumber. By the age of 3, Raymond had learned to walk. He stumbled after the sun's rays, his silver hair dancing in the sea breeze, his violet eyes sparkling like stars embedded in the firmament. One day, while traversing the corridor, he encountered a group of inebriated merchants. One, through bleary eyes, shouted, "Look, it's the little dragon of Targaryen, the prince of the brothel. I hope he grows up soon." "Buddy, that's just revolting. Hey, just take a look at him before you judge." "Well, all right, your taste never disappoints. How about we see him together when the time comes?" Agreed. The words reached Sinera's ears, prompting her to confine Raymond to the backyard, thereby diminishing his connection to the outside world. Perhaps the scarce remnants of maternal affection inspired a flicker of kindness within her. Leaning against the window, Sinera observed the passers-by on the street, her gaze lingering on her son's innocent smile. At the age of 6, Raymond encountered Karen, the illegitimate son of the Braxton family, for the first time. Accompanied by 3 boys 2 years his senior, Karen splashed through puddles, spitting contemptuously before him. "I've heard your mother is a princess of the Targaryens," Karen taunted, gripping Raymond's silvery hair with such force that it felt as if his scalp might tear. "But I've never heard of a prince's child residing in a brothel. Aren't you the child of that limping fishmonger at the end of the alley?" In a sudden rush of fury, Raymond lunged forward, striking Karen across the face. A cacophony of screams and curses ensued as fists rained down upon him. By the time his caretaker arrived, all that remained was a small boy sprawled in the mud, his silver hair matted and stained, a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. "Should you dare to retaliate again, I shall sever your tongue." The boys laughed heartily as they departed, leaving behind a trail of scornful spitting. The trembling maid, Hyla, gathered the child in her arms. Over their 6 years together, this kind-hearted woman had come to regard Raymond almost as her own son. Burying his face in her neck, Raymond murmured, "Hyla, I loathe this place. I wish to seek true dragons and soar into the skies." Hyla's throat constricted as she held the small body tightly. Raising her gaze to the horizon, she noticed dark clouds gathering over the sea. She yearned to tell the boy that such dreams were unattainable, yet an instinct whispered that this child might indeed possess the ability to ascend to the heavens. Chapter 2. Half-Brothers. In the 100-year-long summer of Conquest era, the scent of the sea wafted through Volantis. Raymond crouched in a corner of the dock's fish market, counting his meager earnings for the day, which, though scant, brought him a sense of solace. "Ah, if it isn't our dear brother Raymond. Hey, mind your manners. Brother, before you stands the noble Prince Targaryen." "Ha ha, a prince raised in a brothel." Such haughty voices echoed from behind him. Raymond tensed, for though he had heard these words countless times, they still ignited a flame of rage within him. 3 elegantly dressed youths approached, led by Ace, who adorned his waist with several gilded short swords and wore a brown cloak embroidered with a lion's crest. To his right, his twin brother Euron flicked his sleeve adorned with rubies, while to his left, young Joffrey, not yet 10, mimicked his elder brother's demeanor, trampling over Raymond's fish stall with his silver-embroidered leather boots. "Are you here to buy fish?" Euron leaned closer, the scent of jasmine from his cologne causing Raymond to grimace. "Or do you intend to steal something?" The fishmongers silently observed, their courage limited to mere watching. Raymond's gaze fixated on the ornate short sword at Ace's waist, a gift from his biological father. And what of himself? The tattered linen garment he wore was earned through Vera's labor. "I am saving money," Raymond declared, clenching his coins as he rose. "Once I have enough, I will leave this place until I am capable of returning. If possible, I will take my mother with me." Suddenly, Jeffrey erupted into a harsh laugh. "Leave? Your mother currently lives a life of nobility. What could you offer her? She may have forgotten who you are. He seized Raymon's silver hair, taunting, you don't even know who your father is, yet you dare to speak of a future? Just sell yourself like the rest. Raymon's anger surged, his temples throbbing. Despite being only 12, his unique lineage rendered him taller and stronger than his peers, particularly after 2 years of laboring at the docks, which had honed his strength. He swung his fist, only to have Ace effortlessly capture his wrist. With a swift motion, Ace pushed him, causing Raymond to stumble and topple the fish stall, splattering himself with the foul-smelling scales and blood. Return to your rightful place, Ace said, lifting Raymond's chin with his short sword. Remember, do not mention my mother again. She has no room for a bastard like you among her children. The onlookers erupted in laughter, sharing a bond in their lowly status, indifferent to the plight of their fellow. Raymond's eyes were drawn to the elephant emblem on Ace's cloak, a symbol of the elite elephant party and the current pillar of support for Sinera. Since 9 years ago, his mother had frequently visited the Bisberry family estate, and as her holdings grew, so did her neglect of him, only occasionally remembering to glance his way. I recall my mother saying that we are all her children. Raymond wiped the blood from his face. Do you think having a wealthy father gives you the right to trample on me like garbage? Spare yourself in the eyes of others. We are all bastards just like my mother, who cares equally for every child, yet cares little for any. Yulon suddenly kicked him in the back. Shut your mouth. You do not deserve to call her mother. He retrieved a silver coin from his purse and tossed it at Raymond's feet. Use it to buy a coffin, so you won't dirty our territory when you die in the streets. The crowd erupted in even louder laughter. Raymond stared at the coin on the ground, his nails digging into his palm. He recalled a dream from years past, of a great silver dragon. Pick it up. Jeffrey ground the coin beneath his boot. Why not? Aren't you the best at scavenging for scraps on the ground? In a surge of defiance, Raymond grabbed a handful of fish scales and flung them at Jeffrey's face. Amidst the boy's shrieks, he shoved Yulon aside and sprinted away. The furious shouts and footsteps of Ace echoed behind him. He could think of nothing but escaping. He dashed past the tavern filled with drunken patrons, raced by the brothel reeking of perfume, and finally plunged into a familiar small courtyard. What happened this time? Layla rushed over, seizing him, her trembling fingers brushing against his wounds. Did Ace and the others? Never mind. Raymond abruptly shook off Layla's hand. Why did Sinera choose to bear them? And why did she abandon me here, indifferent and unresponsive? Layla's expression grew complex. Silver strands had begun to weave through her black hair, and the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes were embedded with indelible traces of dust. After a long silence, she retrieved an oil paper package from her skirt. I brought you some bread. Raymond, perhaps Sinera has her own reasons. Maybe she. After a moment's pause, she continued, you might consider having a sincere conversation with her after all. She is your mother. Bow to her and trade my dignity for a life of luxury? Raymond scoffed. Or should I beg like a dog? He seized a tattered shirt from the corner. There's no need. I can survive on my own. The door slammed shut. Raymond dashed into the rain, allowing the cold droplets to wash over the scars on his face. He swore he enjoyed reading the tales penned by Feishuan Jinjuan, particularly the saga of the Dragon King of Volantis Chapter 2. Half-brothers? Remember to visit the mobile version of Dammy Novel at dmxs1.com for the latest and complete chapters. The following morning, Raymond returned to the docks to work, continuing his routine. As he immersed himself in his tasks, time seemed to fly by. Despite having been mocked the previous day, Raymond was determined not to relinquish this temporary job, for the caravan recruiting him belonged to the Bilious family. They were the only group Raymond had encountered that did not arbitrarily deduct wages, and they offered generous compensation even to temporary workers like himself. When it came time to settle his pay in the evening, Raymond gazed at the copper coins in his hand, feeling a mix of happiness and regret. He realized that such earnings would be fleeting, and by the next opportunity, he might not even secure a chance. Lady Sinera, your eldest son Raymond, seems to have had a misunderstanding with Ace and the others. Should we perhaps? Misunderstanding? They're all my offspring. Though I have not been involved in their lives, I know each of their characters well. There can be no misunderstandings among them. Then, should we intervene? No need. Let them be. Chapter 3. Seeking direction in the underflow. The summer in this world is long, and the cobblestones of Volantis are scorched by the sun. During recess, Raymond squats in the shadow of the spice market, listening to the merchants' discussions. The air is infused with the scents of cinnamon and cardamom, yet it cannot mask the pervasive tension that envelopes the city. Those members of the Tiger Party are brazenly clashing with the Elephant Party. An elderly pepper seller spat on the ground, marking a new rift between the factions. Oh, come on. These politicians create a ruckus every few years, only to sit together and divide the spoils once the elections are over. Raymon clutched the sheepskin scroll in his arms, inscribed with information he had gleaned from an antiquarian, the entrance to the Valyrian ruins, though he dared not write the words in full, fearing detection. Ever since the last conflict, his mind was consumed with thoughts of dragons. If only he could find his own dragon, everything would change. He overheard that several illegitimate children of House Bisberry had also split into two factions. A nearby cloth merchant lowered his voice, mentioning that Eyes and Euron's father belonged to the Elephant Party, while Joffrey was the son of a member of the Tiger Party. What a tangled web of relationships. Why would that man raise someone else's child? The Tiger Party scion leveraged his wife's family for power, not by bringing his illegitimate child home. Yet he was willing to forsake the bloodline of the Dragon King. What if he could acquire a stray dragon egg? That would be quite a fortune. With the Tiger Party's chances of victory looking promising, the Elephant Party's dominance might soon come to an end. Perhaps old Bisberry's fostering of children is merely a facade for some hidden exchange of interests. You truly are well informed. Indeed. My cousin's brother-in-law's cousin's husband serves as a guard at the Bisberry estate. You mutt. Eavesdropping again. The familiar taunt sent a chill down Raymon's spine. Joffrey lounged at the tavern entrance, surrounded by several young members of the Tiger Party. He had traded his silk shirt for a crimson ensemble and a newly acquired dagger, emblazoned with a tiger's head, hung at his waist. I hear you are inquiring about the location of Valyria? Joffrey approached leisurely, the stench of alcohol wafting over Raymon, asking if he intended to seek a dragon as a patron. Laughter erupted around them. Aemon stared at Joffrey's golden-tipped hair, a popular style among the Tiger Party. What business is it of yours? Raymon stepped back, hand brushing against the flint knife concealed in his belt. Of course, it concerns me. Joffrey suddenly seized his collar, exclaiming that his mother frequented the Elephant Party, questioning why she chose to abandon him. Why did Raymon share her surname? He leaned closer, lowering his voice, warning Raymon not to underestimate his awareness of his intentions. Be sensible and remain in the shadows. Raymon broke free, realizing that he was merely comforting a child cast aside by his mother. I've told you before, she treats each child equally, and consequently, she cares for none of them. By the way, let me share some good news. Chapter 4. The long journey begins with a single step in the early morning. The mist at the Volantis docks had yet to dissipate. Raymon tightened his hemp belt once more, concealing years of savings within, as he stealthily slipped into the kitchen. Layla poured fish soup into the copper pot, her graying hair wrapped in a faded scarf. Upon hearing footsteps, she did not lift her head. Breakfast awaited on the windowsill. Raymon felt a pang in his heart. Beneath the earthen bowl lay a piece of oiled paper, which, when unwrapped, revealed an entire honey cake, a luxurious treat in Volantis. You need not prepare so much. It is quite all right. You are still growing and cannot always subsist on meager fare. Layla turned, her weathered face displaying a gentle expression, akin to a mother gazing upon her child. With a wooden spoon, she gently tapped the iron pot. You are leaving, aren't you? Eat before you go. I have heard that the Tiger Party is capturing people to seek treasure in Valyria, and some have been devoured by monsters in the ruins. I must go. I cannot linger in this state. I am the descendant of dragons, destined to soar into the skies, and I must attempt it. Very well, but do take care. Raymon's throat tightened. Since he could remember, his mother had seldom cared for him. It was Layla who had raised him, like a mother nurturing her own. She would sew his clothes in the dead of night, using the money she earned from her labor to buy him literacy parchment made of sheepskin. Aunt Layla, I must take my leave. She suddenly turned, her back to him as she washed the dishes. Raymond, may the gods bless you, and may you realize your dreams. Raymond wrapped the cake in a dumpling cloth and turned to depart. The briny sea breeze, laced with the scent of fish, enveloped him as he mingled among the dockworkers carrying burlap sacks, his heart racing as if it might leap from his throat. It was not until he spotted the rusted coal ship that he exhaled with relief. This was the opportunity he had procured by bribing the overseer with half a year's wages. Only by sailing through the sea of smoke could he reach Valyria, while avoiding the eyes of Volantis. The ship set sail at dusk. Raymond leaned over the railing, watching as the lights of Volantis gradually blurred into indistinct glimmers. The mockery of Ace, the hostility of Euron, and his mother's indifferent gaze were all cast away by the waves. He retrieved the three-headed dragon pendant hidden in his collar, the cold metal pressed against his skin, as if he could hear the dragon's roar in his ear. I care not for the Targaryen identity. I only wish to soar to the highest heights, to trample this filthy world beneath my feet, and let the wrath of the Dragon King await. Perhaps the frenzied essence of the Targaryens within the boy was beginning to awaken. Disembarking on the 6th day at noon, Raymond followed the markings from the sheepskin book into the interior. The wilderness was overgrown with thorny bushes, and soon his boots were caked in red mud. He paused by a dry riverbed to rest, gnawing on hard bread. When he recalled the words from the text, the former slaves of Valyria cursed the Dragon King and their giants with soul and flesh, declaring that all dragon riders and their dragons who tread upon Valyria would be reduced to ash by the very blood and fire they once took pride in. Chapter 5. Convergence and Rebirth. The winds of Valyria's ruins scraped against his cheeks like sandpaper, and Raymond collapsed onto the shattered tiles, a metallic taste of rust rising in his throat. Just moments ago, as he crossed beneath the arch inscribed with Vhagar, the black vines entwined around the stone columns suddenly came to life, branding his limbs with smoldering marks of the curse. Cursed by an overwhelming obsession, Raymond momentarily extricated himself from the illusion. He tugged at the tattered cloth to staunch the bleeding, only to discover that the skin surrounding his wound was visibly gray, crumbling before his very eyes. Memories surged forth, echoing tales inscribed in ancient tomes, recounting how the curse of Valyria's ruins devoured the souls of dragon lords, transforming them into even mightier curses to obliterate more scions of dragonkind. His consciousness began to wane. Raymond's nails dug deep into the tiles, the light in his violet eyes dimming steadily. He recalled Layla's hesitant gaze during their farewell, the tender look Serena had bestowed upon him in his childhood, and Aiden's sardonic smirk when he declared that bastards only brought trouble. Unyielding, he wrestled with despair. He had yet to discover the great dragon, to prove himself a true dragon, not a mere pest from the sewers. Just as his soul teetered on the brink of complete dissolution, a flicker of ethereal blue light illuminated the darkness. He strained to raise his head, witnessing a translucent figure materializing from the mist. It was a black-haired youth, roughly his own age, clad in peculiar blue and white attire, emblazoned with crimson lettering, his expression a blend of confusion and wariness. Though appearing frail, he radiated an aura of undeniable confidence. Raymond gazed at the boy in astonishment. His vibrant and self-assured demeanor compelled an instinctive desire for closeness. Surely, he must be a true prince, for ordinary folk could not possess such an essence. "Where am I?" the boy inquired, his voice resonating as though it emanated from a distant realm. "Wasn't I asleep in the hospital?" Suddenly, he focused on Raymond, his eyes widening in alarm. "What happened to you?" Raymond's fingers had turned a ghostly gray, his spirit feeling as though it were being torn apart by innumerable hands. With his last ounce of strength, he grasped the boy's wrist. The touch was palpably real, unlike that of a specter. "Live for me," he gasped, fragments of memories uncontrollably flooding the boy's mind. "With my body, my name, Raymond Targaryen." The boy's eyes widened in disbelief. "Wait, what is going on?" "Please," Raymond's voice grew faint, the curse's power creeping up his arm toward his heart. "Find the dragon, prove it to them." He recalled the derision of merchants who mocked his name, the scorn of his half-brother, and implored, "Don't let them trample upon me. I bear no resentment. This is the price of being a dragon." The boy's expression morphed from shock to complexity as he gazed at his own hands, gradually solidifying, then back at Raymond's dissipating form. Suddenly, he clutched Raymond's shoulders. "Hey, do you have any idea what you're saying?" But Raymond could no longer hear him. His consciousness sank into darkness. In the last fleeting moment of clarity, he heard Chapter 6, an unexpected visitor. The sun over Valyria's ruins blazed like a searing iron disk. Raymond tore away the rag around his neck, desperately attempting to cover the peeling skin at the nape. This marked the second day of his arduous trek toward the volcano. The waters in his leather flask had run dry, leaving his throat parched as though he had swallowed sand. If he couldn't find shade soon, he would truly be scorched to a crisp. Cursing under his breath, he kicked aside the rubble at his feet when a glimmer of light caught his eye. Beneath a partially collapsed archway ahead, a massive petrified fern stretched out, casting a rare shadow. Just as he collapsed onto the heap of rubble, a sudden clang resonated in his mind, not a mere tinnitus, but the unmistakable sound of metal colliding. He abruptly sat up, a flint knife firmly grasped in his hand, scanning the surroundings with heightened vigilance. A mechanical voice resonated in his mind, announcing the detection of vital signs linked to the host, causing Raymond to nearly bite his own tongue. He spun around twice, seeing nothing. "Who? System. Father figure, you have finally arrived. I have been waiting for you with great longing. You cannot imagine how I have endured these days." Binding complete. Welcome to the Crown Trainer system. A pale blue screen suddenly unfolded before him, filled with a flurry of text. Beginner task. Capture your first Pokemon. Reward. 3 Ultra Pokeballs. Raymond slapped the screen, but his hand merely passed through the illusion. "Boss, do you want to see the current conditions?" Where am I supposed to find a Pokemon? This is absurd. The screen abruptly twisted into a cartoonish, smiling face. Resistance detected in the host. Initiating psychological counseling as per user protection protocol. Oh dear. I'm just trying to make a living here. Stop. Immediately. Emin's temples throbbed. I have no issue finding a dragon. But what Pokemon am I supposed to capture in this world? Doesn't your system even read the manual? The cartoon face froze. The mechanical voice stuttering for 2 seconds, scanning detected world mismatch. Target world, Pokemon parallel world, current world, Westeros continent. Finding error in the system. Raymond plopped back down. A mix of anger and amusement swirling within him. So the system delivered the wrong package? Initiating review of the unbinding protocol. Requesting unbinding. The screen began to flicker, indicating successful unbinding. The system will activate in 10 seconds. Wait. Raymond suddenly called out. He stroked his chin, recalling the games and novels from his past life. Despite the absurdity of this system, perhaps he could still gain some benefits? Just leave without any compensation? The mechanical voice fell silent. The cartoonish smile morphing into a sweating expression. The hostess soul does not belong to this world. Although protected by a faint halo of merit, it will eventually leak. This system has already taken shortcuts to register your soul during binding. You are now legitimate and have even cleared A. Chapter 7. The dragon's lament within the cocoon. The shard of Reshiram's light stone grew increasingly hot as Raymond clutched it while climbing. Feeling as though his palm was about to burn, sweat streamed down his cheeks, creating small craters in the scorched earth below. Wiping his face, he tasted a metallic tang. This was not sweat, but the sulfur wafting from the volcanic crater. What is wrong with this cursed stone? Raymond grumbled, when suddenly, the shard began to tremble violently, almost slipping from his grasp. Looking up, he saw dark red glows swirling amidst the thick smoke of the volcano, resembling his brother's boiling red curry. His perception ability activated, revealing a line of text on his retina. Dragon's magical ruby, sapphire. Oh, perception can be developed through individual cognition? That is promising. But a dragon? As he passed through an entrance resembling a half-collapsed obsidian archway, Raymond abruptly halted. The ground beneath him was riddled with spiderweb-like fissures, dark red lights swirling within them, the intricate patterns resembling some form of runes. Upon careful observation, it became evident that this was the High Valyrian script. But what purpose did it serve? Was it a seal? As he leaned in for a closer inspection, his fingers barely grazed the runes when the fragments abruptly emitted a piercing hum. The magma within the crevice erupted, and Raymond scrambled to hide behind a stone pillar. The acrid scent of sulfur lingering in the air. When he dared to look up again, the runes had dimmed, replaced by a deep, rumbling growl emanating from the depths of the volcano. The sound was akin to a dull blade scraping against his eardrums, accompanied by an indescribable agony. Gripping the fragments tightly, he noticed a radiant light continuously flowing into the earth below. Taking a deep breath, he pressed against the rock wall, his surroundings causing his pupils to constrict in alarm. Beside the magma lake at the volcano's mouth lay a colossal creature. Its silver scales were marred by cracks, with charred flesh curling at the wounds, and with each breath, it exhaled a mist laced with blood. The dragon's wings enveloped its massive yet emaciated body, while the surrounding stone pillars emanated an eerie glow, as though suppressing something. Sensing an approaching presence, it suddenly opened its eyes wide, displaying a flicker of surprise and curiosity upon seeing Raymond. The intensity of the dragon's gaze momentarily rendered him breathless. Yet soon exhilaration eclipsed his fear. Could this be the mightiest being beneath the gods of this realm? Greetings, mighty one. I harbor no ill will. Raymond spoke in High Valyrian. The dragon emitted a deep, rumbling roar. While it may have been a soft reply to the dragon, it still reverberated through his mind, leaving him dazed. As he regained his composure, Raymond cautiously approached until his hand rested upon the dragon's snout. At that moment, the dragon gently nudged him back, signaling him to depart as if warning of imminent danger. Such an astute creature. This ancient dragon possessed remarkable intelligence, yet the message it conveyed left Raymond perplexed. Chapter 8. The Sealed Diary. A chill swept over Raymond as he entered the cave. Outside, the heat from the volcanic mouth still surged, yet inside, it felt as though he had stepped into a wine cellar chilled to perfection, with droplets of water condensing on the stone walls. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he ran his fingers over the moss on the rock face. This place bore no resemblance to the vicinity of a volcano. The faint glow of a magical array danced beneath his feet, the pale blue runes flickering like fireflies. Raymond swallowed hard, clutching his flint knife as he ventured deeper. The cave was not particularly extensive, After navigating a couple of turns, he emerged into a spacious area where an oak bookshelf stood against the wall, piled high with parchment and books. A stone table bore a copper candlestick, with wax drippings congealed into peculiar shapes. In one corner rested a wooden bed, neatly layered with animal pelts. Had someone resided here? Raymon murmured as he kicked a ceramic jar at his feet. Suddenly, he caught sight of a black cloak draped over the table's edge, the fabric coated with a strange white ash. Upon touching it, the ash cascaded down in a flurry. Looking closer at the tabletop, he noticed several similar clumps of white residue near the candlestick, remnants of something that had been burnt to cinders. Yet the entire cave was inexplicably pristine, not a speck of dust in the crevices of the bookshelf. Where had this ash come from? He bent down to examine an iron chest, its lid adorned with a black dragon emblem, though the lock was rusted beyond recognition. Without attempting to open it, Raymond turned towards the bookshelf. The yellowed sheepskin scrolls were mostly well-preserved. On the desk lay a leather-bound diary, its gilded cover inscribed with the faint remnants of High Valyrian, Res Belleris. Such a name carries great significance. Blowing away the white dust from the cover, he turned to the first page. The ink had blurred, yet the script remained sharp. In the year 3129 of the Free Era, during the height of summer, the pillars of smoke from Valyria turned half the sky crimson. My father and mother, who had initially played with me and my little dragon, exchanged a glance, gripping my wrist as they hurried towards the dragon's lair. I believed it to be a volcanic eruption. It was only when I ascended the back of the great dragon Vhagar with my parents and little dragon, crossing the narrow sea, that I witnessed our homeland transformed into a roiling sea of flames. My mother's cries pierced my eardrums as our home was lost. Were we still the exalted dragon lords without our bastion of freedom? Raymond's fingers trembled. He had never encountered such a detailed account of Valyria's doom. He flipped to the next page, where the handwriting had noticeably deteriorated. The estate of Tyros was thrown into chaos, with adults quarreling daily. The gaze directed towards my little dragon, Emer, was filled with greed, yet tempered by fear of my father's adult dragon, stifling their ambition. In the aftermath, the surviving dragon lords fought fiercely for dragon eggs and great dragons, sparing neither the old nor the weak. Aunt Agnes's dragon was poisoned, its body floating in the canal. In hindsight, it seems someone harnessed the power of curses. After all, while a large quantity of poison might kill young or subadult dragons, it would be nearly impossible to poison a fully grown dragon measuring over 20 meters. My father insisted we must return to rebuild our homeland with the remaining dragons. Yet everyone knew that those individuals aspired to become the new kings. After the disaster, the once mighty dragon lord families no longer. Chapter 9. The Moment of Emergence. Inside the cave, the candle flickered for the third time, and Raymond rubbed his eyes, once again comparing the incantations on the sheepskin scroll with the memories in his mind. Ever since he discovered Reyes's diary and the powerful treasures, inherited from Sheba, that pride opened the chest. He had unearthed a set of black Valyrian steel armor adorned with golden patterns resembling lightning and a sword with a hilt and blade inlaid with purple gems. It was indeed the ancestral treasure of the Belleris family, the armor of black lightning and the family sword piercing the void. Additionally, there was a whip made from dragon sinew, infused with formidable fire magic, serving as the dragon-herding tool of the Belleris family. Only a select few of the most elite families possessed such magical artifacts, akin to the dragon horn of Daenerys. Subsequently, he seemed to become enchanted, immersing himself in the world of magic and books. At this moment, a tattered copy of Fundamentals of Fire Magic lay open on his lap, his fingertips repeatedly caressing the yellowed pages as he murmured incantations. The stone walls of the cave were adorned with charcoal sketches of various magical circles, some of which had been repeatedly modified and erased, leaving them unrecognizable. Another failure. He hurled the dry branch to the ground, causing the faint glimmers of light he had just conjured to vanish in an instant. For a month, he had devoted nearly all his energy to learning magic, yet his progress had been remarkably sluggish. However, whenever he raised his gaze to behold the set of coldly gleaming black lightning armor in the corner, the sword of void resting silently upon the stone pedestal, and the dragon-taming whip hanging from the bookshelf, a surge of intense motivation would swell within him. At that moment, a timely rumble from his stomach reminded Raymond that he had once again forgotten to eat. He reached into the backpack beside him and retrieved an orange fruit. Taking a vigorous bite, the sweet juice burst forth in his mouth, alleviating his fatigue just slightly. These fruits, acquired from the system, sustained him through this frenzied period of study. A single orange was sufficient to fuel him for an entire day. After satisfying his hunger and thirst, he returned to his desk, delving once more into the intricate and obscure magic circles. This time, he resolved to adopt a different approach. Eschewing rote memorization of the ancient incantations in favor of striving to comprehend the meaning behind each rune, directing his magical energy through focused thought. The Diary of Elise had once mentioned that true magic lies not in recitation, but in understanding. Thus, the days passed in a steady rhythm. Apart from venturing out to forage for food once the oranges were exhausted, all his time was devoted to learning. Gradually, Raymond began to master some fundamental magical techniques, such as illumination spells, fire conjuring, protective shields, and even the majority of healing spells, which should resemble the effects of the life water droplet. Nevertheless, he felt that his progress was far from sufficient. In fact, during the era of Valyria, Raymond's talent could hardly be described merely as genius. Learning so many spells within a month without guidance, and executing them without incantations, was remarkable. Perhaps the efficacy of the telekinesis disc played a role. After all, what a mage requires is a potent mental fortitude, and telekinesis represents the cultivation of such strength. On this day, as he practiced magic as usual, Chapter 10, the Dragon King's descent unfolded. The scales of Sheila glimmered with a nacreous sheen under the sunlight, and Raymond's palms were slick with sweat as he gripped the dragon's saddle tightly. The great dragon emitted a low growl that reverberated through his chest, not of anger, but of approval. A month prior, the ancient dragon had been struggling in the magma. Now, it spread its wings to cover half the sky, radiating brilliance like a small sun and illuminating the scorched earth of Valyria's ruins. Steady now, take it slow, Raymond murmured to himself. The dragon-taming incantations from Elise's diary swirling on his tongue. Suddenly, Sheila reared back and let out a piercing roar, her voice transforming into palpable sound waves that caused debris to tumble from the distant cliffs. The gray-scaled, sickly creatures lurking in the fissures of the ruins scuttled into the shadows, their murky eyes filled with terror. The wind rushed into Raymond's collar, and the sensation of riding atop the great dragon surpassed his wildest imaginings, 100-fold more exhilarating than the ostentation of a noble riding a warhorse. It was a genuine sense of mastery, as if the entire world lay beneath his feet. Sheila appeared to sense his emotions, her wings unfurling with a powerful thrust as she soared to a height of 100 meters. Raymond gazed down upon the ravaged Valyria, suddenly recalling the mockery of the dockworkers and the arrogance of Aiden. Now, those individuals could scarcely touch his shadow. Sheila abruptly emitted a warning growl, her neck turning toward the southeast. Raymond followed the direction of his gaze and beheld a troop approaching along the stony path at the foot of the volcano. The armor of several knights glinted harshly in the blazing sun as they escorted a group of enslaved individuals with vacant expressions. The banner at the forefront bore a crude amalgamation of an elephant and a tiger, symbols of the Valantian people. Whether aligned with the tiger faction or the elephant faction, their eyes shimmered with the same insatiable greed. This arrival was fortuitous. Raymond's hand instinctively moved to the dragon whip at his waist, the metallic scales grazing his palm. He had long since prepared the tomes within the cave, donning the black lightning armor that felt cool against his skin, the Valyrian steel warming subtly in rhythm with his heartbeat, its golden lightning patterns glowing faintly. His sword, the Blade of the Void, hung diagonally across his back. Shira swooped down, landing gracefully at the volcano's edge, her claws crushing petrified ferns beneath her. The crowd below erupted in chaos. Startled warhorses neighed in fear, while a few timid soldiers fell to their knees. Raymond steadied Shira's scales, feeling the immense power coursing through her muscles, ready to incinerate these mere insects at a moment's notice. "Step forward," commanded the leading noble, removing his helmet to reveal a middle-aged man with white curls, 3 daggers hanging from his waist. "My lord, I have no interest in your identity. State your purpose." "At your command, my lord. We have heard rumors of a dragon here, so, to seize it?" Raymond interrupted, dismounting from the dragon. The sound of his armored boots crushing the gravel was sharper than the crack of ice. "I present you with 2 choices. Kneel and confess to the Dragon King." Or, at that moment, Shira opened her mouth, her silvery breath swirling ominously. The portly noble's face turned as pale as a patient afflicted with grayscale, his spear clattering to the ground. The soldiers behind him exchanged fearful glances. Chapter 11. The Return of the Dragon King as Shira's wings cleaved through the smoky clouds. Raymond glanced back at the parched, yellowing lands of Valyria. The Sea of Summer appeared deceptively calm today, with fishing boats frantically altering course below, resembling a school of startled sardines. He caressed the scales of the dragon's neck, the warm touch providing a sense of reassurance. Valantian Harbor drew nearer. 6 months prior, he had stealthily departed from here by ship, journeying to Valyria. Now, he returned astride a mighty dragon. As Shira's shadow enveloped the docks, the unloading slaves dropped their sacks and fled, while many more knelt trembling on the ground, the entire city quaking in fear. "Shira, descend," Raymond instructed, grasping the dragon's reins. The colossal creature spun midair, her wings creating a tempest that overturned 3 merchant vessels. The crowd erupted into screams, and he spotted the fishmonger who had once kicked him, now kneeling in the throng, his face as pale as a salt pan. Amidst the chaos, he noticed Ace's golden hair bobbing through the crowd. The man attempting to slip into the ship's hold, the elephant emblem cloak snagged awkwardly on the railing. Shira suddenly let out a low growl, her snout twitching toward the butcher's shop. Recalling that she had yet to eat, he turned to a merchant he recognized. It appeared he had come to inspect the cargo at the docks, but since he was here, he might as well leave something behind. "Mr. Roman, would you be so kind as to procure some cattle and sheep? Shira has not had a hearty meal in ages." "At once, your highness. I shall prepare ample provisions for Lady Shira. Much appreciated." No, your highness, you underestimate your worth. It is a profound honor for this humble servant to serve the illustrious Dragon King, and a source of pride for the Billis family. You brutes, did you not hear the words of his highness? Hurry and bring forth the cattle and sheep for Lord Hira." Observing the rapidly changing countenance of the corpulent figure before him, Raymond recalled that aside from his avarice, this man bore few significant vices. He was so stingy that he hesitated to part with money even at social clubs, and was known to haggle with the attendants. Yet, remarkably, his establishment was the only one among all the places where he had worked that did not withhold wages from its laborers. A clever man, albeit miserly, he had a knack for generating wealth while maintaining certain ethical boundaries. Perhaps he could be persuaded to join his ranks. Soon, Roman's subordinates arrived, herding a group of over 20 frightened oxen, their tails flicking anxiously as they were driven into the open space. The crowd erupted in excitement as the dragon descended. Hira, however, appeared as docile as a great cat. His claws gently touched the ground, breathing fire to roast one of the oxen before swallowing it whole and proceeding to prepare another, all while ensuring not a single tile was disturbed beneath his feet. Emond dismounted the dragon, the soles of his armored boots crunching against the earth. Raising his gaze, he spotted a figure beneath the archway at the end of the harbor. Sinera stood there, accompanied by 3 illegitimate offspring, while a maid held a babe in her arms. She wore an ivory silk gown, her silver hair elegantly styled, with pearls swaying in the breeze. Ace gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, while Yuluin clenched his fists. Joffrey, hiding behind the two, felt a flicker of greed in his eyes upon seeing Hira, but when Hira turned his gaze toward him, he stumbled backward in fright, his face paling. "Mother, it has been a long time," Raymond spoke, his tone remarkably composed, devoid of the anticipated awkwardness.